So Tesla's name seems to be dominating the news headlines these days. What else is new? They've also been defending themselves valiantly from attacks, and there have really been so many headlines over the last couple days that there's a ton of new information to cover, which I'm going to go through right now. So number one, I want to talk about Tesla's response to an attack from a new short seller. Number two, we're going to take a look at a brand new Wall Street Journal article called "The Investor Clash Behind Tesla's Surge Toward $100 Billion in Market Value." I think it's actually a very balanced article and I like it a lot, but I'll take you through what I think are the highlights. And then number three, there's a brand new interview with Elon Musk. It's long form and it was recorded on a podcast called The Third Row. I'll link to them in the description, but it's really fantastic and I pulled some of my favorite clips from it. By the way, I just wanted to insert a quick comment here before we move to the next segment. After looking at all of the news that I compiled today for this video, I just wanted to reiterate how ridiculous I think it is that so many short sellers are focused on this idea that Elon Musk is a fraud, that he's somehow defrauding the government. I can't think of a private citizen who is more connected to the government and has more of a reputational and financial stake in businesses that serve vital functions. I'm talking about SpaceX. But the notion that he would set up Tesla to defraud the government or somehow lie and cheat about readily observable safety specifications and outcomes, Anyway.
I believe I'm representative of the vast majority of Tesla owners who are super happy with the company and the product, and we think that the next car we're going to get is going to be another Tesla. But that's not what we read in the mainstream media.
Yeah.
You know, if that was your only source of information on Tesla, you'd think it was shoddy quality, cars that spontaneously combust, and that
it is nutty.
And that the company is on the verge of bankruptcy. And,
right.
And we know that's not true, but
This is not true.
it's not true, but
Yes.
I think it's hurting Tesla.
What's your sense right now in the world of electrification and the way he's managed to just pound the shorts?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's very interesting. EVs are the future, and if you look at what Tesla has done, they have really created a very kind of iconic brand. He's done a very good job with his organization in creating an aspirational brand for electric vehicles. And I think investors right now are standing back and saying the big macros, electrification is coming, they have a good brand. You know, they're ramping the plant in China right now, they're building the plant in Europe. And I think they're also viewing it as beyond just an automotive maker. You know, they have a solar business, they have an energy storage business.
Okay, so first to the short seller attack and Tesla's response. On January 17th, which was Friday, there was an article reporting the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration was looking into Tesla driver complaints of sudden unintended acceleration. And by the way, I don't want to minimize this issue because it's definitely a real thing. You can check out Malcolm Gladwell's podcast. He did an entire show on this issue. But anyway, the article goes on to discuss how Brian Sparks, a hedge fund manager, submitted a petition to the administration asking them to take a look into these claims. And apparently a woman was driving a new Model 3, which accelerated quickly and out of her control. So it happened to her once. And then according to this article, it occurred a second time while she was waiting to have her Tesla evaluated. And the second incident caused a crash, which injured 2 people, which is obviously terrible news. So historically, the Department of Transportation and the NHTSA receives a ton of complaints about possible unintended acceleration from a wide number of vehicles. But Sparks saw these headlines about the woman and he starts looking at the NHTSA website. And according to him, he sees a ton of similar accidents and incidents with Tesla. So the NHTSA said it received the petition from him and that the scope of the allegations are broad, covering any Tesla manufactured between 2013 and 2019. So on Friday, Tesla was down a little bit, less than 1%. Today is now Tuesday after a long weekend, and Tesla has issued a response. The stock is up between 6 and 7%. So Tesla says that the petition is completely false and was brought by a Tesla short seller. So a strong statement. They go on to say that in general, accidents caused by a mistaken press of the accelerator have been alleged for nearly every make and model of vehicle on the road. And again, that podcast would support this claim, but I don't know. Anyway, the accelerator pedals in Tesla models have 2 independent position sensors, and if there's any error, the system will default to cut off motor torque. Tesla says they also have a feature where if you apply the brake pedal and accelerator simultaneously, that basically the system will override the accelerator pedal and cut off motor torque. So they also have autopilot sensors to help distinguish intentional and unintentional driver input. So each system, each of those safety systems, they say is independent, and it records data so they can examine what happened in each and every instance. And they talk about how they're transparent with the NHTSA and that they routinely review customer complaints of unintended acceleration with them. So I guess we'll see what the result of the petition is, but Tesla had a very strongly worded response. Moving to the article in the Wall Street Journal, which I actually really enjoyed, there wasn't anything particularly new, but there were some interesting points. So again, they refer to Tesla as being one of the market's biggest shorts. And one thing that I'd like to point out to anybody watching is really this is a function of Tesla's share price and market value. If the stock declined, it would be a much smaller short position, but it's become big because the performance of the stock has been so strong. Anyway, there's a funny moment in the article where they talk about this person who put apparently 3/4 of their retirement account into Tesla stock, and in January he tattooed the company's trademark design on his arm, and they quoted him. He says, "Nothing goes this right this often. I assumed I was living in a simulation." So maybe Elon read that, and if he did, I bet he got a kick out of it. But anyway, the article goes on to talk about how Elon has taunted doubters on Twitter in the past, promising, quote, the short burn of the century for investors betting against the stock. And the article says that those types of tweets have often been followed by a jump in share prices, which hurt the short sellers in the process. One piece I really liked was at the end of the article, they featured a quote from the chief investment officer of Northern Trust Asset Management, who they say was considering shorting Tesla stock in his personal account. Talks about how he's a bond investor, but he called two peers and asked for their advice. And after listening to their starkly divergent views, he decided to sit on the sidelines, which maybe was smart. And he says, quote, certain stocks are heavily traded by the best investors in the market. I can't disagree with him there. And he says, and this is so true, investors are diametrically opposed when it comes to Tesla. You have to be careful before jumping into that gunfight. So I think that's sage advice. You don't have to do anything. He's sitting on the sidelines, can't argue with him, but I disagree with his conclusion a little bit. Here's some highlights from the comment section in the article. One person says, 100 billion is a discount for the data alone. Best of luck to the bears shorting Tesla without having considered this pillar of investment. Another person says, it's the autopilot neural net computer system that will keep Tesla ahead. That is their secret sauce. They get their data from, quote, test cars, and he's referring to Ford, GM, Mercedes, and Audi, while Tesla gets their data from their customers who drive every day. And that I think he's 100% correct about. This other person says, and this is more on the neutral side, I'd say, for me, it's very simple. I don't understand the valuation, and when I don't understand, I don't invest. I am a fan of what they're trying to do, a big American industrial success story in the making, but that doesn't mean I understand the stock price. So I'll watch this one from the sidelines for better or worse. Can't fault him for that. That's smart. And this last person says, Tesla is a bubble. It is valued at more than GM and Ford combined, in all caps. I just drove cross country and did not see one Tesla on the highway. I see them around Miami constantly. They're a second car for errands around the city, but not viable transportation. Well, I think a lot of Tesla owners would disagree with that. Anyway, here are some highlights from the third row. And again, I will leave a link to their podcast and their videos in the description, but enjoy a couple of these highlights. Guys, here are the clips from the Third Row Tesla podcast. It's called Elon's Story Part 1. I hope you enjoy it. Please don't forget to subscribe. It makes these videos better and better, and your support means so much. Thank you for everything, and see you soon.
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned that I kept getting referred to as an investor in like a bunch of things. And it's like, but I actually don't invest really except in companies that I help create. So I only have, the only publicly traded share that I have at all is Tesla. I have no diversity on publicly traded shares.
Like us. Yeah,
nothing. So, I've went to China many times, and they kept saying that we would have to do this, majority local owned venture, and I said that, well, and we had to partner with someone. I said, well, we're a little late to the dance here, you know. So who would we partner with, you know? There's nobody left, and also we're just a little company, so you know, we're, you know, the I kept saying we should get married, and we're a bit young.
That's a good example.
But young, you know, and then you know, but and then also as pointing out, like, you know, there's certainly Chinese companies that are going to, you know, that are establishing factories in the U.S. I mean, there's like Faraday Future and that kind of thing, and that's 100% owned by them. And so, I mean, to be fair, it should be allowed that an American car company should be able to own its factory in China as well. And so we, you know, talked to them for over a number of years, and they eventually said, okay, well, we'll change the law. I think the big difference is like we are way less dumb than we were. So the foolishness of capital expenditures was very high, and it's less high now. And then with the Shanghai factory, we designed out all of, or as much of the foolishness as we could think of that exists at Fremont and in Nevada. So we just made a lot of decisions that weren't smart, and we designed those out such the production line is much simpler. So it's much simpler and better implemented. And then we also found like that in most cases the suppliers were more efficient in China as well than in the U.S. So